It's why, have you ever wondered why mainstream relationship advice seems skewed towards pleasing women, often overlooking men's needs? We live in a world where relationship advice is often served with a side of imbalance. It's a common narrative. A man must go to great lengths to please his woman, often at the expense of his own needs and desires. This pattern, this imbalance, is so deeply ingrained in our societal norms that it's almost invisible. But let's take a step back and examine this. The relationship advice industry is a multi-billion-dollar one, yet it seems to be heavily biased. More often than not, advice given to men is centered around how to keep a woman happy, how to meet her needs, how to fulfill her desires. While these are important aspects of a relationship, they should not be the be-all end-all. What about the needs and desires of men? Are they not equally important? Shouldn't there be a balance? This is the conundrum we face. Men, just like women, have their own needs, their own desires. They too want to feel valued, loved, and appreciated. They too want their needs to be met, their desires to be fulfilled. Yet this aspect is often overlooked, leading to a skewed dynamic where men are often left feeling unfulfilled and dissatisfied. This imbalance, where the man's needs are often sidelined, can lead to dissatisfaction and resentment in relationships. It's time to unpack this conundrum and start a conversation about balance in relationships. Men are often burdened with an array of expectations in relationships. It's like a societal script that's been handed down through generations, dictating the roles and responsibilities men are expected to fulfill. It's a list of obligations that seems to stretch on endlessly, from the traditional, like holding open doors, to the more substantial, such as being the primary breadwinner. These expectations are not inherently wrong or bad, but they can become a burden when they are enforced without consideration for individual circumstances or desires. Men, like anyone else, should have the freedom to define their own roles in a relationship, rather than being bound by rigid societal norms. But what happens when these expectations are not met? Disappointment, resentment, and a sense of failure can creep in, undermining the relationship. It's a precarious balancing act, trying to fulfill these obligations while also maintaining personal integrity and authenticity. Furthermore, these expectations can create a power dynamic that favors one party over the other. When men are expected to consistently give, provide, and sacrifice, it can lead to a lack of reciprocity. The relationship becomes one-sided, with one person always giving and the other always receiving. This imbalance can breed resentment and dissatisfaction. It can make men feel undervalued and overlooked, as their needs and desires are often pushed aside in favor of fulfilling the expectations placed upon them. These expectations can create a power imbalance and lead to a lack of reciprocity in relationships. It's a weight that many men carry, often silently, and it's time we started talking about it. In many relationships, men are expected to suppress their emotions. This societal norm is as old as time, a relic of the past that continues to shape the dynamics of modern relationships. A man expressing his emotions is often seen as a sign of weakness, a departure from the traditional image of stoic masculinity. But what does this do to men? The constant pressure to keep emotions under wraps can lead to feelings of isolation and a sense of not being understood. It can lead to a silent suffering that often goes unnoticed. Men are humans too, with a full spectrum of emotions, yet they find themselves trapped in a cage of silence. This also affects the balance of power in relationships. When one party is unable to express their feelings, it creates a skewed dynamic. It's like trying to dance with one person leading all the time and the other just following along. This isn't a recipe for a healthy relationship. The impact of this suppression is far-reaching. It's not just about being unable to cry at a sad movie. It's about the accumulation of unexpressed feelings, the misunderstandings that can breed, and the emotional distance that can grow. It's about the resentment and frustration that can slowly seep into a relationship, corroding it from the inside. This suppression of emotions can create an unfair power dynamic, affecting the health of the relationship. Same-sex friendships often function smoothly, without the baggage of societal expectations. This isn't to say that these friendships are devoid of challenges, but they often sidestep the power imbalances that can plague male-female relationships. In a same-sex friendship, both parties are on an equal footing. They relate to each other as individuals, not as representatives of their respective genders. This allows for a level of understanding and empathy that can sometimes be hard to achieve in romantic relationships. It's like being on the same wavelength, speaking the same language, and dancing to the same rhythm. In these friendships, there's no pressure to conform to societal norms or to fulfill certain roles. Men don't have to be the protectors, the providers, the rock. Women don't have to be the nurturers, the empathizers, the caretakers. They can just be themselves, free from the weight of societal expectations. This doesn't mean that same-sex friendships are superior to romantic relationships, or that one can replace the other. Rather, it's about recognizing the unique benefits that same-sex friendships can offer. The freedom to express oneself without judgment, the comfort of being understood, and the joy of shared experiences. These friendships also serve as a reminder of the importance of reciprocity in relationships. In a same-sex friendship, there's an unspoken agreement that both parties will support each other, listen to each other, and respect each other's boundaries. This is a model of equality that can and should be applied to romantic relationships as well. It's time to challenge the notion that men have to be the strong, silent type, that they have to suppress their emotions and shoulder their burdens alone. It's time to acknowledge that women are not the only ones who crave understanding, empathy, and respect in a relationship. It's time to learn from the harmony of same-sex friendships and apply these lessons to our romantic relationships. Same-sex friendships provide a model of equality and reciprocity that is often lacking in male-female relationships. Let's take a page out of their book and strive for relationships that are not just about attraction, but also about friendship, understanding, and mutual respect. In same-sex friendships, there is a beautiful balance of give and take. This is an environment where the concept of reciprocity truly shines. Reciprocity, in its simplest form, is the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit. It's a two-way street, with both parties contributing to and benefiting from the relationship. In these friendships, there's no pressure to fulfill societal expectations or obligations. They are not tethered to the traditional roles that often burden male-female relationships. The focus is on mutual enjoyment and respect, rather than on meeting a checklist of tasks or expectations. These relationships are built on the foundation of equality and mutual benefit. And because of this, they thrive. They are spaces where individuals can be themselves, express their feelings, and support each other without fear of judgment or backlash. And this is where the beauty of reciprocity really comes into play. It's not about keeping score or tit-for-tat exchanges. It's about a genuine desire to support and uplift each other, to contribute to each other's happiness in a balanced and fulfilling way. Imagine if we applied this principle to our romantic relationships. If, instead of focusing on societal roles and expectations, we focused on mutual enjoyment and respect. If we prioritized reciprocity, just like in same-sex friendships. This reciprocity can serve as a model for healthier romantic relationships. Is sexual attraction absolutely necessary for a fulfilling relationship? This is a question that often lingers in our minds. While it's true that sexual attraction plays a role in sparking initial interest, it's not the be-all and end-all of a relationship. Over time, the glitz and glamour of physical appeal may fade, but what stays constant is the bond of friendship and compatibility. This bond, built on shared interests, mutual respect, and understanding, can weather the storms of life far better than mere physical attraction. Just as same-sex friendships thrive on the foundation of reciprocal enjoyment and lack of societal obligations, so should our romantic relationships. Let's break away from the notion that men should be burdened with obligations and expectations in a relationship. Instead, encourage relationships built on the principles of equality, reciprocity, and most importantly, friendship. Men should choose partners based on friendship and compatibility, rather than just sexual attraction.